The SCP franchise has had hundreds of games made by hundreds of developers over the course of the past 18 years of its existence. All these creative tales have inspired so many ideas for horror and fun. So far, the most successful have been SCP Containment Breach and SCP Secret Laboratory. Every SCP game, regardless of size, puts their own creative spin on the franchise, which I've observed has created lots of life, but has also resulted in controversy. There are no shortage of instances of these developers' creative visions clashing with the canon lore of the wiki. Dedicated diehard fans of SCP will argue that this betrays their love for the characters and world that has been such a large part of their life, while more casual fans will argue that this is a necessary evil to make a fun gameplay experience, and some vice versa in between. Does lore accuracy matter? Let's think about it. SCP is far from the only franchise that gets lore incorrect in their video games. Right here, I'm playing Star Wars Battlefront 2. This is Heroes vs. Villains. As you can see, I'm playing as Kylo Ren, and I'm wreaking havoc on someone playing as Luke Skywalker. Dedicated Star Wars fans know very well that Kylo's never beating Luke in a fight. However, in this game, it tends to happen quite often. Here I am playing Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, and I'm playing as Tien up against Super Boo. Again, never happening in canon, but all the time here. The Super Saiyan transformation is meant to be a 50 times multiplier in power. However, I don't see attacks dealing 50 times more damage. It's obvious why they made these decisions. It has to be fun to play. If you had a 50 times damage multiplier, you would melt your opponent in seconds. Each character has their own unique traits that create for interesting combat scenarios, and to be able to have fun with those unique traits, you gotta make some compromises. You gotta even out the playing field between the weaker characters and the stronger ones. Well, that's not fair. That's what the SCP games are doing, but oh, when they do it, it's okay. Why is lore inaccuracy such a hot topic in SCP, but no one cares when other IPs do the exact same thing? Maybe this will resonate with some of you. No, it is not canon for Tien to be on par with Super Boo, but neither is the world they're fighting in. These people are warriors. They're fighters. I can reasonably interpret that in an alternate timeline, these characters might train up to the point where they all end up relative to each other. No, Boba Fett is not Obi-Wan Kenobi level, but he is still a ruthless bounty hunter who has held his own against Jedi on several occasions, so allowing a competitive fight between the two makes enough sense. I can just as reasonably interpret that with the right type of training, Piccolo could close the gap between him and the Saiyans as he once did in the Android saga. Going Super Saiyan may not multiply your power by 50, but it still gives you a major boost in the fight, which narratively makes enough sense. You don't need to make everything in your game 100% accurate to lore, so long as you do it in a way that respects the franchise. I'm gonna give some credit to Northwood for following this principle in their latest heavy-duty update. SCP-1344, the new item that allows you to see people through walls, takes about 3 to 5 minutes for its properties to take effect, according to the document. But in SL, it only takes a couple seconds. Yeah, it's to make it viable for the game, but what the hell? That's not lore accurate. Any of you watch Dragon Ball? Remember the 5 minutes until Namek explodes?
5 minutes. That's how long you have. This planet is still going to blow. The core has been completely disintegrated.
Which then proceeded to last several hours worth of content. It probably was a 5-minute battle in the universe, but they were also fighting at the speed of light, so the general consensus is that it was scaled down across several episodes to make it something we, the viewers, could watch. And that's all Northwood's doing here. I imagine a large-scale containment breach in canon would normally take several hours for its results to finalize. However, in SL, that timing is scaled up in the game for a fast-paced experience that can be enjoyed by us, even though it's really taking much longer from the perspective of the characters. Or at least that's a justification they can use. This is how you do it. You don't always need to make everything a perfect one-to-one example. One-to-one. But it at least should be something faithful. What's not faithful is the goddamn BB droids. Look, I have as much fun killing Darth Vader with BB-8 as the next guy, but the concept is absolutely ridiculous. These are not fighting characters. There is no room for interpretation anywhere that can make this make sense. You had so many different options: Mace Windu, Qui-Gon, Jango Fett, Clone Wars characters, Starkiller, and you decided the BB droids were the way to go?
But Claude, they needed something from the sequel trilogy.
Well, if Disney didn't waste the limitless potential of the sequels to make a story that wasn't hot garbage, maybe we'd have some more interesting characters to make a game with. I do not agree with this decision at all. I also don't agree with Xenoverse 2 including Mr. Satan as a playable fighter for all the same reasons. This is where it starts to feel betraying, when you go against the fundamental principles of the franchise's narrative. And yeah, you can already see where this is going. This is where SCP games start to get in trouble. These are called Psi-Z fledglings, victims of a variant of SCP-008, by far the easiest enemy to kill in 5K. However, there's no system for the fledglings to spread the virus to its target. Given that it transmits through mucus and bodily fluids, it feels a little off to not have that feature. I know, it's a modified version, not the OG thing, but that explanation doesn't make sense. The whole premise of 5K is that the Foundation is trying to destroy humanity, so they would want to make the virus more spreadable, not less. The wiki states that it will be mostly replaced by SCP-940 in the future, so I guess that might solve the issue. We'll see what comes of that when the time comes. One of my biggest complaints of SL I've been discussing lately is Northwood's choice to remove the femur breaker from the game. 106's whole gimmick is that you can't damage or restrain it. That is an important and core part of how the character was written. However, SL decided, fuck that. In this game, that all gets thrown out the window, and the only way of dealing with Larry is to shoot it to death. And the canon way of containment that it did have was removed. SCP stands for Secure, Contain, Protect. They contain these dangerous SCPs through special procedures specific to them. Whether it be because they can't be neutralized, or because the Foundation has a vested interest not to, even if they could. That core fundamental principle of the franchise is something SL barely explores at all. Nobody cares about minor ways of adapting that can be left up for interpretation and still respects the franchise. But when you completely disregard key traits that define the characters in the series, that's where I think many people start to have a problem. If that's what you're gonna do, then you might be better off just making your own IP at that point. Like, at least try. That's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to try, to the best of my ability, to make lore-accurate implementations of both of these SCPs myself. The results of which are going to be used in my own SCP game being developed in Godot. Let's go! Let's start with 008. I made a poison status effect as part of a more general status system. Functions about as you would expect, kills the player over time. Of course, I will then need a system for the dead player to turn into a 008 zombie, but that will come with time. Now, I could just slap on my existing poison effect to be used here, but the problem with that is I also have a curing system that allows the player to cure themselves of poison. I have a dedicated antidote item for this. 008 has no cure outside of SCP-500. I can't just decide, you know what? Nah, we're not doing that. So I had to make a separate status effect dedicated to the virus so I can specify that only SCP-500 can cure the disease. That way I can still use my original poison effect for other things, such as toxic gas. Now I have a sequence for the infection, but I still need a method for the zombies to apply that infection to their target when attacking. My implementation of 008 has two different attack types. It has a strike attack and a bite attack. You can guess which one applies the infection. I played with two ideas to manage them. My first idea was a luck-based attack system. After every time you hit a target, there will be a 25% chance for your next attack to be a bite attack. However, your very first attack will always be a strike attack. My second idea was a recharge system. There's a left mouse button for your strike attack, and also a right mouse button for your bite attack. But your bite attack has a long cooldown period. I think both of these systems would work very well, but I can only pick one. Which do you prefer? Let me know in the comments. Whenever your bite attack is ready, there will be some kind of UI indicator to inform you of that. And the idea is for there to also be some kind of change in appearance to inform other players. I think something like this would be a wonderful feature for SCP-5K. Now let's discuss 106. This one is going to be a little harder. The reason the femur breaker was removed from SL is because they thought it was too inconsistent. I mean, hey, they're not wrong. Coming from Northwood themselves, in some games it is activated early, and in others, nobody attempts to make a sacrifice. It's somewhat outside of 106's control, as the SCP team can be unaware that the relevant keycard is in play. A layer of this inconsistency comes from the fact there are multiple ways to deal with 106. You can use the femur breaker, but you can also shoot it to death, another lore inaccurate part of 106. The very first thing I'm doing is making Larry immune to damage. I'm not even giving him a health script. This way, human players will have to use the femur breaker to deal with him, making their movements much more predictable. Whoa, 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 Larry is immune to damage? That's busted! How are humans supposed to deal with that? Well, we can actually do a lot. SCP-106 has been found to experience a slight resistance when passing through certain metals, such as lead. You know what's made of lead? A bullet! Even if you can't damage Larry by shooting it, I could at least implement a system to slow him down and get him away from you. But that will cost quite a bit of ammo. Is that a trade you really want to make? You'll have to decide that in the moment. Check this out. Larry has an aversion to direct sunlight. It can even cause him to retreat into his pocket dimension. We can absolutely do something with this. I implemented a patience system. Instead of a health meter, SCP-106 will have a patience meter. If this patience meter drops to 0, it will retreat into the pocket dimension and stop chasing you. It will then reappear somewhere else. I think there are plenty of actions related to light exposure that can be used to drop down his patience. Throwing flashbangs at him, turning on a flashlight in his face, walking into a Tesla gate. Maybe when the lights go out in a given room, it will drain Larry's patience if he's in that room during the moment the lights turn back on. Whether you shoot him to slow him down or flash him to provoke his patience, you're never quite killing or containing him. However, you are keeping him away from you while you're getting the femur breaker ready. So how are we fixing the femur breaker? Well, there's still an unaddressed issue with not knowing what keycards are in play. I can always make 914 less dependable for upgrading keycards. I want to have a single room in the facility where the needed keycard spawns, where you could then check periodically to make sure it isn't looted. There's another idea I have with needing intercom to broadcast the screaming. Without an 05, you may need 2 separate cards to open each room, as one won't open the other. That's a good start on the keycard issue, but there's still a bigger problem. The lack of counterplay. They just run in, press a button, and that's it. You can't do anything. This encourages 106 players to camp their spawn room instead of wreaking havoc throughout the facility as narratively intended. To solve that, we have to go all the way back to Containment Breach. Did everyone completely forget that there's a second part to the containment procedure? You gotta lift this giant lead box off the ground with magnets. What kind of magnets do the Foundation have that are strong enough to float something this massive 2 feet off the ground? I reckon such technology would need some long startup time to get going. Oh, well, you look at that. A way to rework the femur breaker. To contain 106 fully, you must sacrifice a human as normal, but you must also get the box 2 feet off the ground. When you press the break button, Larry will teleport over to its containment chamber. He will then despawn and the player will be sent to spectator chat. However, a timer will start. 3 minutes, 4 minutes, however long. If the box isn't 2 feet off the ground by the time that timer hits 0, Larry will spawn right back in, and you're gonna have to sacrifice another human. The method to start up the magnets will also have their own timer before it gets fully ready. This will give Larry and other SCPs time to turn off the magnets before they get strong enough. The magnets would also need electricity to function, so if the facility power gets disabled for some reason, 079, that could be an alternative way of turning them off. Some of these ideas have already been implemented for my game. And those that aren't are well within my programming capabilities with enough time. If I can do it, if I can make something lore accurate all by myself using Godot, there is no reason why established studios with way more resources and many more years of experience can't do the same in Unity and Unreal. What's this? A secondary containment area? I'm not gonna fuck with that. Yet. Maybe. We'll see. This is new. Out of all the SCPs that people say are too crazy to make lore accurate, I really don't feel that way about 106. I feel like the 106 document actually gives us a lot to work with. Who's the author? Dr. Gears? It almost feels like Dr. Gears is purposely updating the document to make development easier for us. I don't know if that's what's going on, but I like the result nonetheless, and I think doing that might be something other SCP authors should consider. Look, we can't put all the blame on the developers. We want to make cool and creative things with SCP, and we want to be accurate to the lore. But sometimes y'all write in ways that make that impossible. I'm not saying you should bend the knee to anything others want from your story, but what I am saying is that this amazing franchise that we've all grown up with has always been a team effort. We have to work with each other to continue evolving the series. Check out the document for SCP-500. Turns out the pills can be cloned using SCP-038, but its curing properties only work 30% of the time. This chance continues to drop as time progresses. But wait, how much time? Minutes, hours, days? We don't know. Don't tell us. Leave it vague. Leave it up for interpretation. I want to add 038 to my game so I can clone 500 pills to have a consistent way of curing 008. Keep the info of the document flexible so we can insert what suits our games without betraying the lore. Here's my proposal for the way forward. Devs, make compromises where you absolutely have to, but keep it faithful. Make an honest effort. Authors, maybe when writing your stories, it'd be worth considering that we might like your work and want to use it for something. Perhaps you could take a look back at what you've written and maybe you'd find something a little small that has you like, oh, devs could do so many things if I changed this or added that. Just think about that. Think about us when writing your SCPs. I wish nothing but great things for everyone who's worked so hard to make SCPs such a wonderful franchise to grow up with. And I want nothing but great outcomes for the work they produce. I hope that together we can continue taking SCP to higher and higher places.